Hi, welcome to Carousel. I'm your host, Scott Albertson. When I was growing up, and probably a lot of you folks have heard this, people who are your elders, they say, back in my day, when they're describing a story from their past. Tonight, that phrase really works for this guest because 29 years ago, I met this gentleman. I was a police officer here for the city of Norwalk, and I was on about 5 years at that point, and this is 1983, put it chronologically, and this gentleman came on the department as a rookie police officer, and that was how we first met. So 29 years later, here we are sitting on this platform, and I'm interviewing him, so you never know where life's going to take you. We welcome to Carousel, Tom Kulhawik.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom, for coming.
Appreciate it.
And I am very proud of you. I have to say that. This is the gentleman, I knew him when he wasn't even shaving, and he literally came on, and it's so wild to have this experience. So I want to say, first of all, I'm proud of you. Secondly, congratulations. Tom is now the newly appointed Chief of Police of the City of Norwalk Police Department. Tom was appointed about 2 weeks ago, and we have some video footage we'll show later of his swearing-in ceremony. And this was a good platform, meaning this particular junction of time, to have Tom on, to introduce Tom to some of you folks at home if you don't know him. And folks that do know him, you're going to get to know him a little more. So why don't we start by, for your career, because certainly that's what this whole hub's around, why don't we start about, you were 19 when you came on Norwalk Police Department, right?
I was 19 when I applied.
Right.
And I was 20 actually when I went to the police academy.
Okay.
And I kidded the former Chief Rilling at my swearing in that I don't know what he was thinking when he hired me back as a 20-year-old, but he made a good decision, obviously, and I was happy that he did.
Okay.
It is surprising to have come on at 20. That's a very young age.
Absolutely.
Because now I look at the people we're hiring, and when they're 21, 22, I look at them and I'm thinking, boy, they're really young.
Yeah, they are.
I can only imagine what they were looking at with me then, because you have very little life experience at that point.
And that's an interesting tie between the two of us, because I came on when I was 20 at the same time. And so we were both very young. I know for me, I was not that street hip. I was not that streetwise, because I had gone to college and I had jobs that were not truly involved in law enforcement. So it was not only a culture shock, but man, it was a whole opening of a whole nother world that I didn't even know about.
Mm-hmm.
You learn real quick when you start working the street.
Yeah.
You learn real quick how to size up people. Tell me some of your experiences of starting at 19 or 20 and what you learned, how you learned what you learned, and how quick you learned in the beginning of your career.
Well, I had a little bit of an advantage. I had worked, before I came on the police department, I was going to college.
Okay.
But I was also working part-time at Park City Hospital in Bridgeport at the time, and as a security guard.
Okay.
And at the time, we dealt a lot with Bridgeport police. A lot of cases came in through the police department with different assaults and stabbings and robberies and things like that. So I had a little taste of it there. I was also a volunteer EMT for the Stratford EMS back when I was 18 and 19. So I was kind of involved to some degree. My brother was a police officer in Wilton at the time.
Okay.
He had just started out about 2 years before me. So I had a little bit of an inroads to what to expect, but it's still very different.
Yeah, it's very, very different, because it's almost going from the pan to the fire, so to speak.
And it's interesting, being at 20 or even at 25, you're dealing with people much older.
Right.
And they have to listen to you. So it's kind of you got to get used to that.
Yeah.
I have a son who's 23 and a daughter that's 20, and I look at him and I'm thinking, boy, oh boy, I can't imagine him being a police officer and having people listen to what he's telling them to do.
Exactly.
So I'm glad things worked out, but it's a difficult job for somebody that's that young.
And it goes to that idea, that phrase about back in my day. I mean, when you're 20 years old and you're standing in a uniform and you don't even look old enough to be in a uniform to begin with, because I know you looked very young when you came on, I remember. So did I. And so when you come on and you're trying to explain from an official standpoint what you need to do in your job and how you're interacting with this person, they look at you with a real dubious eye, as if to say, you're not old enough to stand here and tell me what to do.
I think the advantage, though, we had back then, which, again, back in our day, when we came on, we spent a lot of time just walking.
Right.
We didn't get a cruiser. We didn't handle calls. We backed up other officers, and we learned. And we had to learn on the street just meeting people.
Absolutely.
And I remember walking in South Norwalk when Washington Street, there was nothing there.
Right.
And that's all we did was walk.
Right.
And then if you got promoted, you walked Wall Street.
Exactly.
And then after that, they gave you a car, and nowadays things are totally different.
I know.
The training is much different, and
Sure.
They're out there in cruisers pretty quickly after the field training was over.
And of course, this came on after I left the department, but now you have all this computer hookup.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally now you have computers in the police car.
Yeah.
So you can check all kind of data banks about different people, license plate numbers, the whole shooting match. So it's really gone high tech, I guess, if you will. As
Yes.
technology has grown, so has your access to information, which is extremely important for you as a police officer being out on the public and out on the street.
Mm-hmm.
You were referring to walking beats. I remember those very well, like yourself, because of Washington Street being not what it was. You didn't have the glamorous, I guess, if you will, upscale restaurants. The Maritime Aquarium wasn't even there at that point in time. And we did walk Washington Street. We had Monroe Street was Post 8,
Yep.
and Post 10 was North Main Street and all that. But, you know, time goes on. And so through your progression of being on Norwalk Police Department for 29 years, you ascended through the ranks as a patrolman. So what were some of the ranks or steps that you had along the way to get where you are now as a chief?
Well, I think it was about 4 years into the job, I was promoted to detective, and I worked there for quite a few years, and that was a very rewarding position. That was a lot of fun. That's where I met a lot of good people, and you worked on a lot of good cases. And then from there, I worked in the professional standards unit, working on accreditation at the time. Okay. Our initial accreditation, and so that was in 1994. We were accredited in 95. I took over that responsibility, reaccredited in 2000. Shortly thereafter, I was promoted to sergeant, and I stayed in there in that professional standards doing internal affairs. I started the department website at that time, which was fairly new, the internet. And,
sure.
And I had gotten I taught myself a little bit of internet and HTML, and I was able to get us a decent website up. And then from there, I was promoted to lieutenant, and was transferred out to the patrol shifts, working the various days, evenings, midnights. I was the junior lieutenant, so I was bumped around quite a bit. And then I was given the opportunity to go to community policing, where I worked for about 4 years. Okay. Working at the old substation before the new police department. We had a substation at the train station, and that was one of the best jobs I had, working with the community, working on a lot of programs, initiatives to try to improve the quality of life in South Norwalk. And from there, I was promoted to deputy chief in 5 years ago, in November of 2007. And then when the current chief retired, I was promoted to chief. And it goes quick.
Good for you. Good for you. It does go quick. People don't understand. When I was first on, and this is for anybody that's in any kind of career, when I was first on and I was talking with officers of the same level at that point in time, you know, the rank and file, when we were out working the street, and I used to say to fellas, and now there's more girls on. Back then, there wasn't that many girls. I used to say to fellas, think about what you want to do when you get out of here. Because 20, 30 years seems like a long period of time. And when you're 22, 23, 25, yeah, it's a long period of time. But guess what? That creeps up on you. And guess what? It's you set yourself up in a place. Now, for you, as a career professional police officer, you have set yourself up and you have created the steps to now ascend to chief of police for the police department, which is certainly the highest position you can go in the police department, which most people never aspire to, never even make get that close. So you're very fortunate in that sense, and obviously you have a tremendous amount of common sense and intelligence to get to that place. But the bigger point is that you set yourself up in a place where you learn another offshoot of being outside of the police department, because when you're ready to leave, then you have something to segue to, as opposed to walking out the door and saying, okay, what do I do now?
And there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that we see
that do that.
They're getting ready to leave, and you know, they don't know what they're going to be doing.
Right.
And it's kind of sad. They didn't have anything else. And I even tell the new people coming on, have some hobbies, have you know, something else besides, you know, the job.
Sure.
Because you need your family, you need another outlet. Whether, you know, exercise, whatever it is, you got to do something. Because if your whole life is police work, it's not healthy, number one. And then at some point, you're going to have to do something else. And if you have no other skills, you know, you're gonna leave here and mentally you're going to have a difficult time.
Absolutely. You're going to have a very hard time making that transition. I was one of 10 people. We had 10 people come on back in 78, all at the same time.
And I had 10 when I came on. So it's interesting.
Well, see? All those similarities.
A lot of parallels.
And they had 10 slots. And this was a little unusual at the time. They had 10 slots where they could send all 10 at the same time in New Haven. So we all went to New Haven Police Department because New Haven had at that point in time had their own academy. I don't know if they still do.
Yes, they still do.
So we all went to New Haven, and that was a way they could get all 10 of us through at the same time because they needed us on the street. There was a fellow by the name of Lieutenant Ahern, I'm sure is long since retired,
Yeah.
and Bill Ahern, and he was terrific, and he said something that has stuck with me all of this time, all of these years later. One of the first comments that he made when we were in the academy said, just remember this, treat people the way that you will want to be treated when you're out working, because all that energy comes back to you.
Mm-hmm.
If you step on people, those are the people you're going to see when you're going back up or going into another facet of your life. And I think that's so important to keep in the back of your mind as a police officer, that you are really serving the community. I mean, you see it on the side of police cars, and you see it in Adam 12 and all these other police shows, but you're really serving the community, and that's your job.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because the former chief, when we used to interview new hires coming on, he would always say that, you know, there's the golden rule and then there's Rilling's rule, and I subscribe to that as well. And that is, don't just treat people like you want to be treated, but treat them like your mother, your father, your grandmother,
Right.
you know, your grandfather, your sister. That's the way you should treat everybody, and that's what we try to bring to the new people coming
Sure.
on. And I think it's worked. We have a great young department. The people we're getting they're quality people,
Good.
and it's exciting in the future what we're looking at.
Sure. You segued it. So where do you, in your mind, what are some of the ideas, some of the strategy that you have for the department now going forward, you as the chief?
Well, I believe we have a good department right now. I think
Okay.
the former chief left us in great shape. He brought us from the dark ages, so to speak, to where we are now. So it doesn't need to be totally overhauled by any means. But new ideas, you know, younger people looking at things a little differently. We're going to take what he left us with and just go a little bit farther. So the idea of community policing, you know, and that kind of thing, we're still got to push forward with that. I believe in customer service as a priority, because again, serving the community is what it's all about.
Sure.
That's the biggest thing we're doing, and being responsive to the community. So I want to make sure that we get that message out to the brand new person as well as the 25-year vet.
Sure.
That's the most important thing. And then obviously utilize social media more, because that's where the kids are looking.
No question.
So we're trying to use Twitter, get involved using Twitter, Facebook. We already have text-to-tip and that kind of thing for anonymous reporting of information. So more and more we need to utilize the technology that's available to us, and also technology when it comes to crime analysis and things like that. And it all costs money, but there's grant programs, and we're able to get
Sure.
donations and things. So we've been very fortunate to do a lot in that regard, and we're going to keep doing more.
Good.
And my deputy chief is very tech savvy, so
He is David, yes.
Yes.
David Wren is the new deputy chief.
and he's already making some changes with the way we're storing files, so we have access, and we're keeping things up to date, and we're able to have access to the data we need on a daily basis to make decisions, to adjust our resources accordingly. So I'm fortunate to have him, and we work well together, so it's exciting.
And they both came on about the same time. You didn't come on at the same time, but you both have about, he has 28 years, you got 29.
Yeah, he came
So
on
you-
about a year after
Right,
me.
so you both have about the same time, so you both have ascended the ranks, so to speak, together, which is
Yes.
terrific, because you have that simpatico.
Yes.
You have that lineage, you have that history together.
Mhm.
Little interesting sidestep here about Tom and high tech is when I emailed Tom when he was appointed, or just before his appointment,
Mhm.
I asked him if he would come on to wrote and asked if he'd come on to the show. And I don't think the email was 5 minutes old, and he wrote me back. And I was shocked. I was like, wow, man, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, I really try to be responsive to all the emails, even weekends, nights, whenever.
Sure.
And what's been good about that is I've got a good response from the community when I respond quickly,
Sure.
and they realize that people are out there listening.
But that's terrific. It's bouncing off what you're saying.
Yes.
Is utilizing the social media and also utilizing the technology, which is absolutely perfect. You know, the blueberry, raspberry, whatever you want to call it, blackberry,
Mhm.
and all of that is exactly how you stay connected to what's going on, and it's another quick access to get a hold of you, whether it be by cell phone or whatever.
Mhm.
So it's wonderful technology. Utilizing Tom's response or Tom's comment about the community, we're going to show a video clip of Tom's swearing in process. Now, this is something that you probably haven't seen much at home, of swearing in of a police chief. And when I knew that Tom was going to be on as a guest, I wrote and asked him if it would be okay if we come and videotape that footage. So Joyce Fishman, the other producer, and myself, and Tobias Baharian came, who's a videographer that we use. And we came and we were there for the whole videotaping. So we're going to go to this videotape and we're going to show you not only the swearing-in process, we're going to show you some of Tom's acceptance speech of the position of police chief for the City of Norwalk Police Department.
You bear true faith and allegiance to the United States of America.
So this will roll about.
State of Connecticut. And will support the Constitution and laws thereof, so help you God. And we do solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge and perform all duties incumbent upon you as a police officer of the City of Norwalk. You hereby accept the office of Chief of the Police Force of the City of Norwalk and agree to obey and be bound by such rules and regulations as are or may be from time to time laid down for the government of the Department of Public Police Service of said city. Do you affirm and accept? I do. Congratulations.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, distinguished guests, fellow chiefs, family, friends, and co-workers, I am honored and humbled to be standing before you as the 9th Chief of the Norwalk Police Department. It's surreal standing here today, as it seems like only yesterday, but it was actually almost 29 years to the day, when then Lieutenant Harry Rilling called a 19-year-old college student and told him that there was a late opening in the police academy, and the position was his if he could come in the following day, Friday, to complete the paperwork and begin the police academy on Monday. Chief, I don't know what you were thinking. However, they say hindsight is 20/20. So as it looks, you made a good decision. Thank you. Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, I thank you for the confidence you have shown in me, and I can assure you that I will work each day to prove myself worthy of that confidence. Becoming chief is not the end of a long road for me. I consider it only the beginning. I want to thank all of you who are here today. I know I did not get to this point on my own. It took each and every one of you to make me who I am today. Each of you has contributed a little bit to mold me to the person I am, and I truly thank you for that. Of course, I have to especially thank some specific people. First, Chief Rilling, I thank you for sharing your institutional knowledge and vast experience with me, especially over the last 5 years I served as Deputy Chief. I learned a tremendous amount about what it takes to be a chief. I hope I can bring the same passion and love for the job that you show each day. It was an honor learning from you.
That particular swearing-in ceremony, Tom and I were talking a little bit about that when we were showing the video footage, was something to be a part of. There was such supportive energy there. There wasn't a negative bone in the house, so to speak. It was at the community room at City Hall right here in the city of Norwalk. And David Brin was on first, and they swore him in as deputy chief, and then you came on, and it's what we saw. Mm-hmm. And it was such a very wonderful, it was just like it was like making music. And if you know that feeling, it's such a positive energy going forward. There's no inhibitions, there's no restrictions, there's nobody saying, no, it can't be this. And that, for you, sets the tone for you being chief of the police department.
I was overwhelmed. I was wondering how many people were going to show, and we were going back and forth about what food to order, and because we had sandwiches and things. And then when I walked in the room and I saw people out the door, I still can't believe it. You know, it was really heartwarming, and you know, it's an honor to see that much support.
Sure.
From all segments, all, you know, not just the people that you expect to be there, but there were people that showed up that I had no idea they were coming, and it was something. I still go back and think about it, and it's something.
It was a very moving experience. It really was a very moving experience. For the folks home, just so they know, the fellow that pinned the badge on you and the gentleman that you hugged and you salute each other was your brother.
Yes.
And he's the chief of
He's the chief in Eastham, Mass, in Cape Cod right now.
Right.
He was the former chief in Wilton, Connecticut, which obviously borders us here.
Right.
He retired 3 or 4 years ago from Wilton to take the job in Eastham in Mass.
Is it just the two of you in your family?
And I have 2 sisters.
And your 2 sisters?
That live in Arizona, and unfortunately they both visited in June. And then when this all happened, they just couldn't come back out again, 3 weeks later, actually. Sure. They both were trying to, but I said, it was very expensive, and sure. with their work and everything else, so unfortunately, but they will see it with your DVD.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely. And with the new website, which I'm going to talk about a little bit towards the end, they can actually go on and watch the whole interview once we finally get it uploaded onto the new website and also Facebook. What I wanted to mention as well about that swearing-in ceremony, and we cut it off about you talking about your mom and dad,
mm-hmm.
and it was so sweet how you said that, because it shows a man of compassion, it shows a man of sentimentality, and certainly a reverence for your mom and dad, because they both passed many years. I mean, you were still a teenager.
Yeah. My mother died when I was 16, and then my father when I was 18. Right. And and we were a very close family, so sure. it was difficult.
So to say that, it was really beautiful. It really was beautiful, and again, it shows, because actions always speak louder than words. So it shows not only yourself, and you were comfortable enough to show that part of yourself, but good for you, Tom. I'm really happy for you, and I think the city has made a very good choice in you as the new chief of police, as well as David as deputy chief. And can we give the website? Can we talk a little bit about that, because we're talking about high tech? Is it just norwalkconnecticut.org?
Well, you can get, the city website is norwalkct.org, and then through there you can get to the police department. Or we also registered the name norwalkpd.com.
Okay,
norwalkpd.com. But they both go to the same place.
They both feed into the same website, so to
yes.
speak. Yeah, they both interact, so to speak. Yes.
Yeah, and we used to have a separate website, but when the city went and contracted for a citywide upgrade, it's now all integrated into one website.
Now, is the general number still at the police, 203-854-3000?
Correct.
Right, and of course 911 for emergencies.
For emergencies.
Right.
Yes.
And the police department now, what has it been, about 5 years since they moved down to Monroe Street, since you moved headquarters?
I think it was 2005. I think it's been 7 years.
About 7 years.
I think.
Right. The old police department was 297 West Avenue by the old Lockwood Matthews Mansions. Now, just for folks who don't know, if you happen to be down that way, it's on Monroe Street, the corner of Monroe and South Main.
Yes.
And it's a fairly new building. They built it brand new just for this particular reason.
It's a beautiful building.
Yes,
yeah.
It is a really beautiful building. And I'm sure that with the, again, technology and when learning from the old building, the old police department, I'm sure you went in and did upgrades before you built it and had forethoughts about how you were going to put in and made positive changes for that idea of having a brand new police department.
Yes.
Wanted to also talk a little bit about your family before we get off this interview, because Tom, as well as, and that's part of what that acceptance speech is, Tom is a very strong family man and certainly a man of faith. So why don't you just tell us about your Julie, right?
Yes.
That's your wife?
Correct, yep. Julie, actually we're high school sweethearts, so that we've been together graduated high school in 1980. So okay. We weren't married till after I was on the police department, but we've been together for a long time. I have a son that's 23. He graduated last year from Boston College, and my daughter is 20, and she's going into her junior year next year at Suffolk University in Boston. And actually, she's studying abroad in Prague. Starting Labor Day, she's leaving, so we're hoping to get out to see her, because I don't know if I can go 4 months without seeing her next fall, but hopefully that'll work out.
And they were there, meaning at the swearing-in ceremony. They were right in the front row, and you made reference to them later into your swearing-in speech, which we couldn't keep that long in, but you had made reference to them. You talked a little about Julie, you talked a little about your son and your daughter. Which
and I had my 92-year-old aunt there as well.
Oh, you're right.
And she lives in Fairfield, and she's still very healthy, going strong, and she's the last remaining of my parents' family, so to speak. Everyone else is pretty much gone, and but she's great.
Yeah, she seemed like a feisty gal.
Yeah, she still drives, and not far, but she still drives.
That's great. That's terrific, and I'm sure she's very proud of you and your brother as well.
Oh, she's great.
Yeah, I'm sure she's very, very proud of you. Before we start winding down the show, I wanted to give this to you. This is going to be a big hit for you when you go home with Julie tonight, meaning your wife. I want to give this to you, and this is from a Norwalk bakery, and this is for congratulations. And You know what they say? You can take them home. I'm not going to light it because
Okay.
if I light it, they'll freak out here and give you fire. And you're chief of police. I mean, you don't want to violate any codes.
Well, I'm not a fire chief,
Right.
though, so that's all right. You could-
The point is that this is a chocolate cake. When I perform in the city, I get these cakes and give them to people for their birthdays and
Oh, I
etc.
appreciate it. My wife loves chocolate.
So I learned a long time ago, that's part of the learning process, right? We're talking about the learning curve when we first came out in the police department. I learned a long time ago, there's a song about diamonds are the girl's best friend. It's chocolate. Yeah. So if you come in with chocolate, man, you're a big hit.
And my daughter's home as of yesterday, so
There we go. Yep.
that'll be gone quickly
You won't get
today.
any of that, right? It'll all go. That's fine. It'll all go to Julie and your daughter. But congratulations, and I'm very, very happy for you. And I wish you a long tenure for however long you want it as police chief of the city of Norwalk, and as well as David. And maybe at some point in time we'll get David on. That would be fun.
I'm sure he'd love it.
Talk a little bit of his experiences. Interesting, the little bit I do know about Tom, because you were talking about your IT history with the police department, getting the website up and all that. David is big time into technology.
Yeah, his former position when he was a lieutenant was our IT person.
Right.
It's now been civilianized, so we have a civilian IT person working for us. But at the time, he was very instrumental in getting all our IT in the new building.
Okay.
A lot of our reports that are generated, he started that. Our CAD system, our record system, he's very involved getting that all going. So he's
So
very,
you guys are really kicking the police department into the 21st century.
well, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Knock on wood. So thank you so much for being here, and we wish you Godspeed, the best of luck, and congratulations. There is a new website for Carousel I want to mention before we close down for this evening, and that is called lifeonthecarousel.com. You can go on, you can see trailers for guests that are going to be coming up in the near future. You can go on and see previous shows, such as Frank Owens, who was on here about 3 weeks ago, also Mark Egan, who was on here, Dr. Mike Cassetta, who was a dive master that we had on here. So go on lifeonthecarousel.com. Also, you can go on Facebook now. We have a Facebook page. So, Tom, thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Be well. God bless you.
Thank you.
And good luck in your position.
Thanks.
And thank you for joining us, and please tune in again.
I don't care what the weatherman says when the weatherman says it's raining. You'll never hear me complaining. I'm certain the sun will shine. I don't care how the weather vane points when the weather vane points to gloomy. It's gotta be sunny to me when your eyes look into mine. I fell in love with you first time I looked into them there eyes. You've got a certain little cute way of flirting with them there eyes. They make me feel happy. They make